Welcome everyone, and thanks for joining us today. The webinar will begin in just a moment. We're just going to give everybody a chance to join us, and then we're going to get started. Also, just want to check if you guys can put it in the chat. Do you hear me okay? Everything good? I'll start to panic if nobody says, yep, all good.
We're good.
There we go. Thank you. Thank you. I feel better now. All right. Like I said, we're going to give it another 30 seconds. Make sure everybody has a chance to connect, and then we're going to get started. I think we're going to have to get some music, Sergio, for the down for this.
Some elevator music, sure.
Yeah, something.
Yep.
All right. So thank you for joining us for today's MicroAge Talks Technology webinar. We hope you all enjoyed a little time off this summer, but we're very happy to be back after the summer break and super excited about this webinar in particular, as it is a little bit different from our usual. So my name is Maria Fiore. I'm the Director of Operations for MicroAge. My partners in crime today are Sergio Lima, Director of Customer Success, and Adriano Anania, NOC Manager. Welcome to you both.
Hello, everyone.
Hello, hello.
Crime was the right word.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah. I didn't think about it when I wrote it, but anyway. I want to also mention that we have our colleague Patrick in the background, making sure that everything is running smoothly. So as I mentioned, today's webinar is a little bit different. It's an interactive simulation that will recreate what organizations go through when a cyber incident occurs. We'll get into that in more detail in just a moment. And some of you who are regular participants in our webinars will notice that we have changed the webinar platforms and are now using Microsoft Teams webinar. This is our first one, and I'll be honest, a little bit nervous to make sure that everything goes okay, but so far it's been good. So, and thank you for your patience if there's a little bit of a hiccup, but I think we're going to be okay. So just a few housekeeping notes. So attendees are muted to reduce any background noise. We definitely encourage questions, so please use the Q&A to ask your questions. We want this to be as interactive as possible, so please use the chat to share your thoughts throughout the simulation. We want the interactivity to be between you and us and between participants as well, please. So the webinar is being recorded, and we will be sending a link to the recording within the next 24 hours. In the same email, you will receive a link to download the Incident Response Tabletop Kit we are making available. And we encourage you to take advantage of these resources and share the links with colleagues that may benefit from today's information. Lastly, at the end of the webinar, we will provide a link to a short survey. So if you can, we'll put that in the chat, the link. And so if you can give us your feedback and just take a moment to give us your feedback so that we can improve future webinars. Also wanted to mention that if you did not get a chance to download the handout that we are making available for you to take notes today, we have the link in the chat. So please go ahead and download it now, and so you can take notes and write down some of the thoughts that come to you while we're presenting this. So before we actually get started, I'm going to take a moment to give a brief overview of who we are for those of you who may not know us. So MicroAge is a Canadian technology service provider with over 40 locations across Canada. We've been providing IT services and solutions for our clients for close to 45 years now. We strongly believe in creating a partnership with our clients to help them achieve their objectives. For the partnership to be successful, we need to understand your organization, your operations, your clients, your people, your challenges, your opportunities, your success metrics. All of that helps us recommend and provide the IT services and solutions that fit your needs. So in a nutshell, this is who we are and how we engage with our clients. So let's just go quickly through the agenda. So we're going to go through what the objective of the simulation is. We're going to go through, how it works. We're going to go through the phases of an incident. We're going to throw in some curveballs and surprise some people, and so that it kind of provides you an opportunity to do some critical thinking and make some critical decisions. And then we'll do a wrap up and kind of a reflection of what you've learned. What things you can put into place in your own organizations. So with that, Sergio, I'm going to pass the floor to you.
Thank you, Maria. Hello, everyone. Thank you for attending. Before starting, I'd like to say I'm really happy and appreciative that my colleague Adriano is with us. Um, if some of you may not know him, he has been heavily involved with some with some incidences similar to what we're going through here in this scenario. He and his team are involved in the incident response plans, incident response in general. So I'm really happy to have him on. What better person to have than someone who's actually gone through many of these, some of these, not many, some of these in real case scenarios. And it's nice to have his feedback on that because he interacts with every different aspect of what we're about to see. So the objective of this is really to provide a glimpse into, like I said, what we've seen, what we've experienced with some of our customers. It'll an opportunity to be exposed on the decision making, how an organization works when they don't have an IR plan or when they have some form of an IR plan with a few missing components, how you can strengthen your communication and your decision workflow. And it gives you a better understanding of why it's important that this should be put in place, documented, stored somewhere, and ready to go and tested. And hopefully it'll expose some gaps if there are any gaps, but it'll give you a bit of a awareness as to maybe there's a few tweaks that you may have to do in your own plan. Now, each phase will begin with a scenario. Um, Within your organization, you would assign roles, right? So obviously, in any organization, you have ownership, president, directors, managers, employees, you name it, right? But in an IR plan, you have similar roles, but they're not actually designated as such. They're designated like an incident response manager, a breach coach, a PR person, a communications, a technical team. So it's different types of roles that need to be assigned, and they are assigned specific tasks that have to be done and don't deviate from it. And usually there is some form of a manager on the incident response side that is pretty much handling the entire team to ensure that it flows through right. Now, we will go through a scenario with, like Maria said, 5 phases. After every phase, we'll give you the scenario. We'll explain to you the type of customer scenario we've set up for this call. We'll go through a little polling exercise where you answer. And then we'll go through the pros and cons on the answers. And every once in a while, we'll throw in, a couple curveballs to see if your answer may or may not have changed along the way, knowing a little bit more. And again, these are typical curveballs and situations that we see on a regular basis. So let's set the premise. We are talking about a fictitious company called Natura Goods, Inc., an eco-friendly product distributor. That's you as the person listening to this. You are now Natura Goods. You have 30 employees. You are running a cloud-based ERP with an inventory system. Most of your transaction is done via website and e-commerce. And you also have a warehouse that relies on scanners and printers, and it's connected to some local servers. So you have sort of a hybrid type of environment with some web components and some local components. 30 employees typically would not have anybody hired as an employee in the IT side. So what we see in this environment is usually this type of customer would have some sort of an MSP, a service provider, that is there to do end user support and to help with anything that is IT related. I don't know if I should go through like typical responsibilities like a manager. And obviously, in this business, a manager would be like overseeing day-to-day operations, coordinating multiple departments. Usually plays a key role in decision making and escalation and enforcing continuity plans. In the event of a crisis. You may or may not have an HR representative. It may be the same person, but again, someone who manages internal communication to staff for incidences, employee data, internal systems, ensures that the appropriate employee support and coordinates with legal and privacy, et cetera. And then you have like CEO ownership, et cetera. So every phase will have an assigned role. That will be your role for that phase. And let's start with phase number one. Something's not working. So you are now a customer service agent. So please erase the fact that you know a lot about IT and just pretend to be an employee who is your role is to be a customer service agent who interacts with customers and partners on a regular basis. And at 9:10 on a Tuesday morning, you a few employees report that they can't open their files. One says that the file names all look strange. Another one says that the print jobs are not working. So you and your colleagues can open several files. You also notice that some apps are crashing and they become unresponsive. You're getting weird pop-ups and error messages, and some print jobs are not working, and the print queue is suddenly not working. So, um, what do you do next as a customer service agent? We'll put up the poll.
Yeah.
And again, you look at some of these items and you think, you know what, we as typically an employee would not automatically assume that this is a cyber incident. A lot of times we see things happening, on a regular basis where, my apps are not working, something freezes, and as a user you have a lot of knee-jerk reactions or default reactions such as rebooting machines or calling, etc. So that you have to just put yourself in the seat of someone who is not IT, and you would typically just see some of these things happening.
Yeah, rebooting is like one of the most common things that we see people do. It's
Yep.
it's not always a bad thing. Sometimes it's a really good thing.
Yep.
Collaborating with your colleagues, seeing
Mm-hmm.
in this case here, you did find out that your colleagues are having similar issues. So likely something's up. It could be with the server. Your file server could be down, which hopefully your MSP is calling you to tell you and advising you bringing it back up. But it could be something as simple as that. And what matters here is being able to identify the combination of issues that are happening, the weird error messages, and your apps that are becoming unresponsive. Those are cloud-based. Your file server is local. So kind of those questions there that you would ask.
Yep. What complicates things is environments where it's a hybrid workforce or a workforce that is entirely remote. Becomes difficult to actually notice that some of your colleagues are having the same problems as you. That's key element there. How are we doing on the poll?
On the polls, yeah. I think we've got about 32 responses, and we're going to give it a second or two more, and then we're going to close it off.
Okay. The remote workforce is the tough one, specifically because you don't have anybody to refer to, right? So you assume that there's just something wrong with your device.
Yep. I think, Sergio, we can move on.
Yep. All right, let's start with our curveballs. Okay. We've closed the poll. Perfect. All right, so on top of that, the printer stops working. Someone notices that all file names are in shared drive end with a .naturalgoods_locked. Another employee opens a file that says that your files have been encrypted with a link to a Telegram chat to recover your data. And a few staff members get an email from the accounting address with a suspicious invoice that is attached. Now, we mentioned Telegram, and I'd like Adriano's input on this because we've seen, and this is a particular type of attack, a typical method
means of
going
communicating,
in.
right?
Yeah.
So threat hackers are always going to make an effort to try to reach out to ensure the process could start. So advising you so you're informed that there is an actual malicious activity that's happening in your environment. Telegram, we see it as being one of the most frequently used applications. It's like a WhatsApp, similar, very common tool that's being used. The only difference is that Telegram does allow for certain API calls and some automated bots within the application that are easy to set up, which could then start a timer when someone accesses a Telegram chat or starts to talk to someone in the Telegram chat. And the Telegram chat would likely have pictures as proof of a breach or some sort of information. I've seen some cases where a Telegram chat, which this was sent obviously from the cyber insurance company, it had a picture of the threat hacker browsing the desktop on the server. And at that point, it was the domain controller. So you're kind of like showing I'm inside the business.
Right. And these
Knock,
typical
knock, I'm
formats,
here.
yeah, pretty much,
Basically.
yeah. And these are, what formats are these? T.mes or
Usually the
T.me
links,
/ group name, the links, yeah.
the hyperlinks would end in t.me. And one other point, I don't know if I'm going to mention this later, but I can mention now. We wrote over here that you got it in a file. What we do commonly see is external facing email addresses. So if on your website you have cv at or info at or sales at, what would frequently happen is that the threat hacker would actually send an email to that email account and give them the link to just that t.me hyperlink.
Yeah. So let's see the results.
Yeah, so we've got 22% of our participants that said tell your manager or team lead, 22% that say restart your computer, 55% that said call your IT support, and then 0% that said ignore and work on something else.
All right. So knowing all of this, would your answer have changed?
Yeah, so
comments are appreciated. Feel free to chat.
So seeing the curveballs that came through, having a little bit more information, would your response to the poll questions have changed? So would you still go ahead and restart your computer? Would you still go ahead and tell your manager? Yes, no would be fine. If you guys want to interact with us, that'd be great. But yeah, so should we,
I see some familiar names of people I've dealt with that I hope that their answers changed if they were wrong in the first place. So,
yeah.
It's not, it's not black and white. It's tough. Like I said, you get a little problem on your laptop, and your first instance is to restart your computer, right? Something's wrong. Let me turn off the app. Let me restart it and see if everything's okay. It's rare that an end user will spot some kind of a ransomware directly on the fly. It really depends on awareness and escalation protocols and the behavior of some of these things. And it doesn't help the fact that if you have a lot of remote users, it makes it difficult for you to see a commonality between all your colleagues. So best practice, call your manager or team lead and escalate this as quickly as possible. If you have access to IT support through your managed service provider, or if you have an internal IT person, then that would be, the two best methods of escalating this as quickly as possible. Why? Because you want, an investigation to start as quickly as possible to not have this propagate and make anything worse. The restarting of the computer could be problematic. I don't know if Adriana wants to mention a little word on potential threats
absolutely.
or issues with restarting a device.
Yeah, so event logs. There could be event logs that when rebooting the computer that you'll miss out. So in the case of a real compromise, you might be kind of shooting yourself in the foot. You're losing a lot of visibility on what's actually happening, especially when you do identify who patient 0 is. I use some terms, so if ever people want some definitions of terms, write in the chat and I'll describe it. I'll respond back. So you don't want that. And also there might be other persistent mechanisms or triggers that would happen after reboot. When it does detect that the computer was rebooted, automated processes kick in, send, little pings to servers in a different country, and that starts a different time or a different process. I did see the chat a little bit, and I really like the response from everyone over here.
Yeah.
Really, between both advise your manager and call your IT support, like Sergio said, it's really dependent on your business.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of prefer call your manager first or your team lead. It's a more business approach. Call your IT support. You don't want people to just go ad hoc and say, I think I got hacked and I called, IT support. Really, the collaboration is the biggest part here, or having something well identified.
Dimitri says that, he says, I would have reached out to the manager. In most cases, the manager would be the one to escalate further up to him to see the correlation and the surge of issues that arise in the environment. So, excellent.
Specifically when you're alone and you don't know what's going on elsewhere, if you escalate to your manager and has already received 3 other calls from other employees, that helps.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Or you could ignore and work on something else. You could do that too.
Yeah, Leslie, we could back there. You could just ignore, work on something else, sure.
Yeah, probably
got
not
0 responses on that. Good job.
Yeah,
folks.
no, yeah.
All right, let's do phase 2. It's bigger than a glitch. So we're changing your role you are now a manager, the escalation point, and your IT confirms that it is in fact a ransomware incident that are all 30 employees are locked out. Some emails are bouncing, and to make problems worse, well, your productivity is dropping. Obviously, you don't have access to any of your tools or applications, such as SharePoint, QuickBooks, etc., or any cloud apps. A little bit of confusion and panic starts to set in with your employees. And just to add the extra pain or issue, you're as a manager, you're trying to reach the CEO or owner, and he is unreachable. He or she is unreachable. So you have no idea where this person is. What do you do next? Let's put up those poll questions.
So you have call your cyber insurance provider, notify all staff, send a statement to customers, wait for CEO instructions.
Yeah, there's a couple of signs that we didn't notice. I've seen some cases too, where they would send print jobs to the actual printer, and you had staff walking around with a stack of 300 or how many papers were inside that printer, all saying, please call this number, you've been compromised type of stuff. So it's really important that your staff knows who to escalate to, who to collaborate with. So you as the manager, you know what the next steps are.
Yeah. I mean, those are some early indicators. Again, it's sometimes difficult because it's, if you can't print, it sounds like just a normal problem that anyone would have. But
none of us ever had any print problems. Never.
Yeah, so, if it print job and then the file's not open and the app's not working, it's like just the subtle anomalies that now it's starting to sound a little fishy. And, you as a manager, would you or your team know how to act with any kind of decision in the absence of a CEO or ownership or someone who should be there to take the next steps, make a decision?
Right. Yeah. We're going to
Good.
give it 2 seconds and we can close it and then we can move.
All right.
Yep.
So to add to that, your email system now goes down completely and you can no longer reach your staff or your clients using Outlook or your mail system. Your CEO, you find out that he or she is in transit, out of cell range, unreachable for at least 4 hours. And a client receives an email from your domain that looks suspicious and phishing, and now they think or assume or suspect that you've been hacked. That's a few more curveballs to add.
Yeah, just what we'll give the poll results. So 16% say call cyber insurance provider, 80% said notify all staff, 0% send a statement to customers, and then 2% said wait for CEO instructions.
All right, good. So knowing all of this, would your answer change?
Yeah. Yep, you're right, Paul. Very good message. Paul was saying message from legal on what to have staff say to external customers and partners.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Good.
All right. So, guys, would your responses change based on the curveballs that we just put up before?
Yeah. So obviously, the most crucial one is to immediately call your cyber insurer. Why? Because they know they do this on a regular basis. They have competent people. They have an entire team, a breach coach. They have legal, forensics. They have partnerships with security firms. They do this on a regular basis. That's their job. So obviously, it is the right thing to do. It is. Hopefully, you have cyber insurance. If you don't, then it's something to reflect on and to maybe correct and maybe do some shopping for a cyber insurer. But yeah, these are the right people. Why? Because we and you don't do this on a regular basis. They do. So they know exactly, who they're dealing with, what it entails, what's going on, what are the next steps. And they've gone through some of the, decisions and consequences and reactions to all of this stuff in the past with other customers. And yeah, notify all staff, definitely. Needs to be just, structured or coordinated, some kind of a template, something that, transparency is good, as it says. But again, it needs to follow a certain plan. You don't want your employees, don't don't start calling one at a time, because they'll probably start calling each other and maybe change the messaging around, and then calling clients and partners, and again, making it worse situation.
Well, not only that, and we're going to talk about a situation that we went through later on, right?
Yeah,
That we,
yeah,
as an example, but in that particular example, like the employees started going on Reddit, and all kinds of stuff was going on, and there was like everybody like this organization's customers were like confused, like what's going on? Was there a hack? Was something happening? We had no information except seeing all these employees on Reddit, or when we were calling or emailing, they're saying, well, we can't really answer, we don't know. So it was, like you said, it has to be it has to be coordinated, right?
yeah,
Your
yeah,
message.
And the notify all staff portion, and Paul, again, with a perfect answer to that. If you do have another means of communication for your entire company, during an IR plan, you would identify that as a secondary means to communicate. We
right.
would use something like Discord or another tool, or we've seen some people using an SMS system that would do like text, not text magic. I think text magic.
Yeah, text
that
magic.
would
Yeah.
that would go out and send a notification to all staff, and
Mhm.
that they are properly communicated of this second means of communication within your environment. So stuff like that is what you would do in an IR plan. So that's why it's really good. But if coordinated is really the key point there. You don't want to utilize a system that is technically already part of the compromised environment. So let's say if you wanted to use Teams to advise a colleague, if someone is infected with an active intruder inside the computer, you might be kind of giving away what exactly your next steps are.
Yeah, and sometimes your entire tenant is down, right? Because it's most probably compromised as well, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and sending a statement to the customers, again, refer to your cyber insurer. They have the right people in place to tell you when exactly. Again, they need to confirm, what's going on, what the impact is, what are we looking at, and may possibly when we're looking to come back online. You don't want to, again, spread the panic outside of your environment. Not just yet. It's too soon. They definitely need to collect a little bit more information before you send any of that information out. And waiting for CEO instructions or waiting for any decision maker, um, you know, um, it could impact legal liability, operational downtime, public trust. Obviously, you know. The procedures need to be put in place in the event of somebody not being there and someone else being able to take their place and taking a decision, because it could just get worse. Phase 3 now. So we're trying to stop the bleeding. You are again a manager. It is now 12:30, several hours after the first detection. The IT has isolated some systems, but your primary cloud tools remain down. Your clients are calling. You've just learned that payroll data may have been leaked, and your last good backup is 3 days old. We still don't know why, but your MSP is still looking into that. And now your cyber insurance is asking for logs, and obviously will engage a breach coach to start the forensics and progress of that interaction. And your file server that contains some customer data, including some personal identifiable information, has been officially identified as one of the systems that was compromised. So let's put up the poll questions. What do you do next?
All right. So, yep. So the answers are notify clients and hope for forgiveness, contact legal or use insurer's breach coach, pay the ransom, wait to act. So let's see what comes through.
In the meantime, you need to look at things like consider your real numbers of your business. How many employees are affected? What are the billable hours or your productivity costs over a day, 3 days, a week? How much possible sales volume are you losing while you're down? What's your reputational costs? The clients and partners now trying to reach you, not knowing what's going on. Your systems are down. Are you losing revenue? And how will everyone else react, right? This needs to be done as quickly as possible.
There's compliance issues, like there's so much going on there, right? So
yeah,
and this whole PII thing, like that's important. All right.
The legal plays a really big role in this.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think we can
All right.
close
Good.
the poll.
We can close it up. Let's put some curveballs in there as well. So your HR team or someone from your HR confirms that the employee's social insurance numbers and some salary data were stored on one of the infected compromised servers. So that could be out there somewhere. And your MSP noticed that the backups have not run for 3 days because of some sort of a license expiration or a key that was not inputted correctly. Something's not working. So you have data that is 3 days old. And your cyber insurance provider asks if if you've preserved any logs, if you've notified your breach coach or a breach coach, and have you documented the timeline of the past events so far?
Yeah, so
Yeah.
let's share what came back. So, oh boy, this one's easy. So there were 100% of the people said contact legal or use
Nice.
insurer's breach coach. I think that one was too easy.
Yeah. That's good. That's good. I mean, look at the backups, right? What's your SLO, your service level objectives for your data backups? Are you backing up on a regular basis? Is somebody monitoring them? Have they been tested? Is it automated? Have you restored and tested to see if everything's okay? Is somebody looking at that? Have you collected any, or do you have any systems that collects critical forensic data? Do you have access to logs? Are the logs active? What else, Adriano? I'm running short of stuff that you need to be prepared for because your
That you need to
cyber
be
insurer
prepared
will ask.
for.
Yeah, though in their
I
forensics, they
mean,
ask for a slew of stuff.
they do logs of firewalls, logs of all of your servers, any type of VPN connection logs that you could provide. A lot of it is, post breach, so it's a lot of getting information of what's already happened. There's also, your HR team that did advise you that the social insurance numbers were on the server. Is that intended for your business? Should it be on the server? Should it be on some type of cloud system or, a HR like Bamboo or another system like that? Those are things that you need to find out. A lot of times what we do see is, oh, we were supposed to delete that information years ago and it still existed. And well, that's a bunch of personal information.
Yeah, yeah. And depending your industry as well, I mean, if you have personal information that's out at large, you may need to notify specific entities so that again, you work with your cyber insurance, breach coach, legal to to go through that. But yeah, again, it's legal, reputational risks. That's big. So, I'm
Yep.
going to ask, knowing all this, would you change your answer? But I honestly don't want you to change your answers. Those
Yeah,
good answer.
that's 100% of you got it right. So yeah.
Yes. So, it's, I mean, don't notify. It's not ideal to notify your clients and hope for forgiveness. Obviously, it's again still too early. Contact the legal and make sure that they'll guide you in the right way, right? Effective communication, legal coordination, the decisions, the business continuity, etc. Um, we're not at the stage where you need to be calling your clients and say, I've got some kind of ransomware here, and won't be long, I'll get it fixed, right? Because again, you don't have any answers. You need to have, this is what happened, and this is what we're doing to correct it, and we foresee coming back online at this time. Paying the ransom. You want to talk about a little bit of the ransom stuff, Adriano, like paying or not paying, and some firms do and some firms don't.
Yeah,
In Canada,
absolutely.
anyways. Yeah.
You know what? I have to fact check myself. I remember it being that way. I might be wrong, but I do know in the United States you're not allowed to actually consult or pay off that ransom. You have to deal with a specialized firm,
Hmm.
and usually we kind of piggyback off of the same views on that in Canada. So when we get assigned, let's say a cyber insurance company and a security company, they'll actually outsource that to a legal team in the United States that will handle negotiations. And sometimes it's a question of getting a little bit of a delay. They might be putting a pressure on you to say, pay the ransom in 48 hours or I
Yeah.
delete everything. So they begin negotiation tactics to kind of just prolong that whole process. So that's normally what we've seen. I've seen one case where someone's paid out a ransom.
Yeah.
It was about
Usually, as the only
70
way
something.
to yeah the only way to get your data back, right? Because
Yeah, and
you've done your
that's not a full restore. That's not even, they paid a certain amount in cryptocurrency, and then afterwards what they need to do was do a file level backup, rebuild their entire environment, and maybe I'll explain afterwards how that whole process goes about. But it was a lengthy process.
Yeah, and some of it goes through recommendations that your cyber insurer will provide, obviously, because they deal with them. They'll deal with security firms that know that are familiar with the similar cyber criminals and groups and hackers that you do this on a regular basis. So they kind of know which ones that they can deal with or negotiate and get some data. But it's not to say that they're going to completely walk away and leave you alone for the next time. You may be a target again. They may collect that ransom and not give you the info, and not give you the data. So it's again risky, not ideal. I like the word.
So to Braxton's point, so Braxton wrote, what if you suspect it could have leaked to partners or clients? As if your sites were connected in some way, what's your obligation in that scenario?
Yeah.
In this case here, you normally in an IR plan, you're assigned or you identify who your legal affairs manager is. This is more of a legal question, what type of information? So just to recircle back on the first point here, notify clients and hope for forgiveness. Once PII has been identified, you're likely hitting Law 25, and you're going to have to follow that type
or
of
whatever,
in Quebec, right?
Whatever
in
law
Quebec,
you
sorry.
have in your own provinces, yeah. Or a Canadian PIPEDA, right?
PIPEDA,
so.
Yep.
PIPEDA, that's it. So you'll have to likely follow in that structure, and you'll have some legal guidance. Likely your cyber insurance company will come out. We have seen some cases. It really depends how your systems are. If let's say you have transactional stuff happening on a Monero system on the side and you get breached and there's no client information, sometimes you actually don't even have to do anything on the legal side, and that cyber insurance will tell you. They'll tell you who you have to communicate with, or if you have to broadcast and display a message.
Yeah. So that again, we keep saying, talk to your cyber insurance, talk to your legal, because those are very important things. Paul was saying if you don't have cyber insurance, I'm going to say this, I wouldn't recommend not having cyber insurance. I think it's important that you do, but you have that good cyber insurance. You should be working with brokers who understand cyber insurance and can explain your coverage, because like any insurance, it's complicated. But yeah, it's really important to work with breach coaches and then legal people, so that if there's something like that happens, Braxton, where you suspect that something was leaked, that they give you guidance as to how to handle it and what communications, what you can and cannot say, how you say it. All words are important in these cases.
Yeah. If you don't have a cyber insurance, obviously you'd have to create your IR plan based on. You'd have to ensure that you have legal somewhere in there and be able to contact them. You have to make sure that you have access to some form of a breach coach, someone who's done this before. You need to have access to your managed service provider, obviously at any given time, right? Like 24/7, let's say. You need to make sure these components are in place. So you're basically doing your own. You're building your own IR plan without the help of a cyber insurer, but it definitely helps. If I could compare it to us, let's say as a managed service provider, in your environment, if you have servers and workstations, well, you need and infrastructure and web, well, you need someone who knows their infrastructure, someone who knows how to do end user support, someone who knows applications. Well, when you sign contracts with a managed service provider, you get all of that right in one. So it's very similar to that. So you don't have to worry about finding all of these resources on your own. Right. Phase 4, getting back to business. So later in the week, and if you notice, I did not say hours or days or weeks. It depends on your situation. We've seen a bit of everything. It could be, let's call it a couple of days later. Recovery's underway. You've restored partial access, but the clients want answers because you still haven't contacted them. False rumors are spreading online, and employees obviously feel like they're left in the dark. You've used data from 3 days ago, so that's all you got. Your employees are scared and frustrated. And by the way, you as a CEO, because this is your role in this phase, you are the owner, you are unable to have access to your LinkedIn account for some reason. What is your next step?
All right. So do you draft a CEO video or official client statement with legal breach coach approval? You do a company-wide update communication. You focus on internal recovery first and external messaging second. You stay silent until recovery is complete, or you let the MSP handle all communication. So what would you do?
I like the point of the 3-day-old backup. Could be a numerous amount of things. Your last immutable backup could be 3 days old, like offsite that's not touched from your environment.
Yeah.
There's horror stories that people don't have a fully isolated solution for their backups, and they get encrypted and their backups get deleted, and they're at mercy of the threat hacker.
Yeah. And then it becomes a loss of trust, damaged reputation. It's not an IT disaster or crisis. This is a business-wide disaster, right? Clients may consider going elsewhere. Obviously, we all expect a bit of transparency and stuff but yeah, if you're in that when that fire is going on, it's a little tough to manage that.
All right. And give a minute, 5 more seconds. Get in your responses now, so that we'll close off the poll.
Oh, by the way, silence can be interpreted as incompetence or evasion. So that's why it's important to act as quickly as possible, so you can provide the right type of transparent information to outside parties, inside employees, etc.
All stakeholders, right?
Yep. Yeah. So let's put a few curveballs in there. You as the CEO now realize that, through confirmation from your MSP that your LinkedIn account has been hacked. And apparently you're posting false updates on your own attack. And clients are calling on an hourly basis asking if their data was exposed and if you're still operating. And the staff are afraid to use their computers and are asking if they can stay home, today, tomorrow, etc. Yeah, let's see those results.
Yep. So 59% said drafted CEO video or official client statement with legal breach coach approval. 12% said company-wide update communication. 21% said focus on internal recovery first, external messaging second. Stay silent until recovery is complete. I guess they were listening to you, Sergio, because 0% for that.
Yeah.
And let MSP handle all communication, 6%.
6%. Perfect. Yeah. So knowing all of this, would your answer have changed?
Yeah. Let us know.
What do we think?
Would you have changed your?
Would you have changed any of those answers? I'll give them a few seconds.
There's 2 answers I hope that got changed. There's 2 answers.
Yeah.
All right.
No.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. So rebuild trust, ensure clear communication, and control misinformation. The priority still remains focus on your internal recovery first and your external messaging second. That doesn't mean that you should only focus on your recovery and not do any of the 2 other points above that, which are also in green. Your CEO video or official client statement is a strong move. It's also recommended, right? Because you need to start to advise, internal, external, and please keep your staff informed in some shape, way. Obviously, the last thing you want is your employees to be saying things to others and about what's going on, or they don't know what's going on, which makes things even worse. So what are we looking at here? Stay silent until recovery is complete. Nobody answered that, so that's good. Very bad idea. And just a little comment on the letting the MSP handle all the communications. Unfortunately, MSPs are not in your business, and we're not at the business level. MSPs are usually, their role is to ensure that your IT is maintained and the support and your end users are they help your end users and stuff. But it's very difficult for an MSP to assume or assume the role of a CEO or a decision maker within your business. It's not our business, it's your business. So typically an MSP will not do the communication and the comms and all of that stuff, the publication of information at large. It strictly remains in the hands of business owners.
Yeah, and that also would hit the legal side, right? So your cyber insurance will tell you who's going to communicate and when. That's why having those roles identified is really important in an IR plan. Just to add a couple points, the stay focused internal recovery first. Your teams are likely split up. You likely have your incident response manager, your IT teams, and your senior management representative. They will be working together and they will advise senior management what's going on the case, so they're not inside the day-to-day of the technical jumbo that's been going on. And then after, your CEO could do or draft a video if it aligns with what the breach coach or legal team wants to do. Keeping staff informed and aligned is a really helpful thing if there's a strategy in place. So if you do have that external means of external communication channel, like I said earlier, an SMS or Discord or different means, if that's well identified, it also helps for remote workers that might be completely out of the loop during this outage. So if you have people that work in a different country altogether, it might be really hard to reach them. So having that structure identified now is really helpful in the case this ever arises.
And I'm going to use a real life situation just to give you an example of why staying silent until your recovery is complete, why it's a bad idea and how it fuels your fear and rumors. About 6 months ago, one of our suppliers experienced some kind of a third-party breach. And they immediately shut down communications, did not provide any status updates for several days, consecutive days. Didn't look like they had a playbook, didn't look like they knew how to communicate this. It was, we, like Maria said, we saw, instances of people on Reddit. Is that where you saw it?
It's
Like
Reddit.
instances,
Yeah.
other people
Updates were happening
commenting and
there.
rumors going on saying, hey, something's going on, I don't know what's going on. We had no clue what was going on. And obviously it's one of our suppliers where we have to, and purchasing gets involved and we have issues. And guess what, the purchasing and the logistics of that interaction has to be cut. So we had to cut ties, we had to ensure that we're okay on our side. We have to continue our business. So obviously we had to transition our purchasing to a different supplier, because of the loss of trust and no transparency whatsoever. So that probably hurt them, and it affected us as well. So that's what you have to think about if you stay silent for too long, or if you don't have the right team or don't have a cyber insurance and are doing this on your own. The longer it takes, the more rumors spread, and the more reputation and potential business revenue loss you may have. All right, let's do phase 5. What would you do differently? So there are no right answers. The goal is for to have self-reflection. We use the prompts to identify gaps in somewhere in the right. Like, where did the communication break down? Who made the most critical decisions? What surprised you the most? Things like we didn't know who to call first. Communication everywhere, not coordinated. The fact that there was no backup, or a failed backup for several days. In some instances I've seen, we have cyber insurance. I don't know who to call. I don't have my policy number. I don't know. I couldn't get access to it because it's on my network. My network's down. I have my escalation list. It's on my drive, but my M365 suite is down. I can't get my files. So it's very important to have like these things documented and copied and printed and double copied and sent out. That structure has to be put in place, because when something like this happens, it's too late. If you have it somewhere, in an area where it was affected, it's very difficult to get it, right? Discuss your roles, obviously. Who does what? Your IT versus legal versus communications. Who's the leadership, decision makers, MSP's roles. They all contribute to this. And we're going to start our poll on this one. How prepared, knowing all of this, what you've seen, how prepared is your business today? Where 1 is not at all prepared, and 5 being fully prepared with a documented and tested incident response plan.
I would almost love that no one selects 3. I would even remove 3 from it. I find it's the most common thing that people put.
Yeah.
Safe.
At the end of the day, I mean, we don't
There's no
know
judgment.
who's answering.
We're not judging anyone.
Yeah.
We don't know who's answering.
It's just,
anyway,
how do you feel? Like, after
we're
you've seen
curious.
this, how do you feel about, are you ready for something like this? Because there's, and we're MSPs, so part of what we preach is protection, right? Protect your environment. Make sure you have the right tools and the right things in place to protect whatever it is that your data, your company, your servers, your firewall, whatever it is. But that the other part is, and we keep saying this, it's not if, it's when, simply because it could be anywhere, anytime, any size organization that can be hit. So part of it is being the resilience piece, right? Is being resilient. Can you, if you fall, can you get back up, and how quickly can you get back up? And that's what we're trying to drive at is, how prepared are you? How comfortable are you? And then these simulations, this is a simple simulation. I mean, it's we're all virtual, and it's a little bit harder, but these simulations can be done within your organization, right? You get the team together, the response team or the people involved, and say, okay, let's run through this plan. If we have one, if we don't have one, then we start building one. And then how do we play out? Did we have the contact somewhere? Did the insurance company change the number, or the person to call? Is everything still the way it was when we wrote this plan 6 months ago, a year ago? And I mean, depending on your organization, you might do simulations every 6 months, every year. But I guess, what, Adriano, a year, is that something that's usual in terms of doing a simulation like this, just to test your plan to make
Yeah.
sure that it works
Tabletop
properly?
yearly.
Yeah.
Tabletop yearly.
Yeah.
There's
And
a
if
chat that someone wrote, that Christian wrote. I love the openness from that.
Yeah.
There's a couple takeaway points that you likely haven't changed the way that your business kind of operates on after experiencing that incident. So it's really nice to see
it's
that
not a
you
fun
now have stuff in
environment to be
rating.
in. Yeah. I remember with some of our customers, it's not fun as a, like an MSP, but as a tech, and Adriano can confirm this. It's not fun as a tech when you're on, you're in that environment and you're trying to recover and figure out what's going on, and you have the CEO of your client like right there breathing down your neck. Is it done? Is it done? What is it? Are you, figured it out? And then, legal's there, and then comms there, and it's everybody's in. I mean, we've
Oh,
had calls with like midnight, 1 in the morning with like 8 members of MicroAge, and that's just MicroAge. And then you have their side with legal.
I
It's
remember
hectic.
I had
Oh,
just bought my house when one
it
of them
is
happened. I had
crazy.
just bought a house, I just moved in. I think the mattress was still on the floor, and there was an incident at a client, and I must have done Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, the whole week, about 6 to 7 hours every single day,
Yeah,
and it was like the worst experience ever. But the client's
yeah,
back up and now,
mm, yeah.
bad
That's
cases.
tough. That's tough. So, you need to understand there's no clear escalation path. No public relations plan or legal plan. Do you have that? Why the backups failed? Ensure that your backups are running well. Do you have the cyber insurance? Understand your cyber insurance coverage. Like if your insurance broker cannot clearly explain what is included in your policy and what it entails, how the claims
oh,
process works,
and their expectation of you.
and their expectation. Knowing the coverage obviously increases the chances of a successful claim because sometimes they may not want to pay you if you haven't done certain things. Also, you are in a specific industry. Your insurance broker or your insurance company will be able to tailor some kind of a plan that works for your business because you may have business that's entirely dependent on IT, and obviously there's costs associated to that if it goes down, and you may be a company that is really not dependent on IT, and if something were to go down, you have a plan B. Again, your insurance broker should be able to tailor that contract
Yeah, the
proactively and in a
legal
nice way.
underwriter. So you'll
Yeah,
likely be assigned a legal underwriter when you get your cyber insurance to do a full evaluation
yeah.
and help identify, the means, how your business operates. Do they use VPN? Is MFA on everything? Is there any exceptions? And if there's any exceptions to that, are you doing geolocation filtering? Are you adding a secondary layer, SSPR, or risky users in 365 to automate the flow to automatically lock out people that are assumed risky? They might ask you those things. I know that
Hmm.
there's people in this chat that I've dealt with. There's clients here that they've went through this with the underwriter. We had to identify we need to allow VPN from different locations. and stuff like that. So you have to make sure that you're within your contract terms once that is set in stone with cyber insurance.
Yeah. And again, it varies by industry, right?
I was going to say, do you want me to share the results of the
Yes,
poll?
let's do it. Let's
All
do
right.
it.
So 11% of our participants said that they're not ready. That's a 1. We have 28% who said they're not really ready. They're at 2. 22% said
Like
they're
somewhat.
kind of
Yeah.
ready. 22% said they're pretty ready. And then 14% said they're ready. So that's good to
Perfect.
hear. So that's
Good. Yeah.
yeah. So, and again, this was just so that, seeing what we just saw and kind of being in the eye of the hurricane kind of thing, like, would you be ready to be able to answer some of these questions, to, put out communication, to do all of that kind of stuff, right? It's and that's what we're trying to drive at.
Yep. Perfect.
Thank
So what are
you.
the
Thank you,
next?
Paul. I'm glad you
Yes.
liked the presentation.
So
Sorry.
what are the next steps? All right. Let's build or review your existing incident response plan, right? Print copies, multiple copies, take them out of the office, and give them to a couple of people that are part of your IR plan. Confirm, the details of your cyber insurance and other contacts. Obviously, all of that needs to be documented. Again, there's a bit more than just that. The scope's huge. Your forms of communication, how are you going to communicate internally versus externally, the types of tools you're going to be using. If none of your network tools or, and applications are working, how will you communicate with everyone else? It's just something that's always forgotten, like, yeah, I'm just going to call. Like, you're going to call your 150 clients or 200 clients one by one, so there
Well,
needs to be some kind of a method to that.
you say that, but about a year ago or a year and a half ago, I don't. There was something in the U.S. This happened. It was a natural disaster. There was flooding in the mountains. The people who live there never expected flooding in the mountains. You expect flooding in the plains, but not in the mountains.
Mm.
And one of the people who was impacted was saying, we never realized that we would lose cell phones. We would lose, the phone communication, even
Yeah.
landlines and stuff like that. So,
Yeah.
their to do or lessons learned was, okay, we need the satellite phones to be able to talk to people, like,
Yeah.
and kind of a design, because they couldn't get to each other's, to another office, to another home, they couldn't. So it was an interesting thing. So you mentioned phones, and
Yeah.
it's stuff like that you don't realize sometimes, and that's why simulations will, every time you learn something new, right?
Mm-hmm.
That you might have missed, right?
Yeah, I remember a couple of years ago, wasn't there an ISP or a the internet provider that went down, and like half of
Yep.
Canadian mobiles were down, and half
Yep.
of Canadian businesses were down because of internet. That was
Yep.
total chaos
Was it
for everyone.
Rogers?
Yeah,
Were they
I
allowed
believe
to
so. Yeah,
identify?
yeah.
The
Oh,
phone
Yeah.
system
it's
for the
public
police was
news.
down.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's public
Rogers.
news.
It was
You see,
That was
it
crazy.
was
Ontario had
Rogers.
no,
Yeah,
Ontario
It
had
was
no
Rogers.
emergency
yeah,
services for, I think it
yeah,
was 14 hours.
Can
yeah.
you
And that,
imagine?
well, you have to assume the worst, right? That
Yeah.
It's a
means that
large
there's no
scale.
escalation. You know how many people most probably needed actual assistance and couldn't do it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's really
Yeah.
So, how many
different
businesses did
condition.
that impact? It impacted MSPs for sure, right? They do support. I can't do end user support with no internet,
Yeah.
and no mobile and no connectivity. You lost revenue with some of your clients because you can't reach them. And I didn't say the last point, but train your frontline staff, for early detection, obviously, like some kind of cyber security awareness training program. Make sure that they're your weakest link, unfortunately. So it would be really advantageous that there are, you could use them in your frontline to be their, human firewall. And so they're aware. Maybe they can detect this a little quicker than usual, and you can help contain the damage, and or limit your exposure, or limit the amount of time that you're down. Yeah. So with that, I pass
Yes.
the
So,
baton to Maria.
Patrick, if you can post the links that would be great. But in the meantime, so let me say thank you for joining us today. We hope we achieved our goal of giving you a taste of what it looks like when you are in a cyber incident, and the importance of having a plan and being ready. We encourage you to download the Incident Response Tabletop Kit if you want to run your own internal simulation. And if you have any questions, please reach out to your local MicroAges. We will be back in October, October 9th to be exact, with our next webinar featuring our now infamous Fish Are Legit Cybersecurity Awareness webinar. So we hope you can join us. Look for the invites in your emails or on our social media in the next few weeks. Yeah, so let me see. Is there any questions or anything that we might have, that you were wondering about or anything like that? You'll see as well, I'll mention it again, that Patrick put in a link to our survey so that you can give us your feedback as well, because we want to make this better all the time. So appreciate everybody's time. Sergio, Adriano, Patrick, a big thank you to you guys. Obviously, we couldn't have delivered this without you. And thanks to all of you for spending time with us today. We really appreciate it. If there's anything we can do, again, reach out to your local MicroAges, and we'll be happy to help you. So with that, please have a great rest of day, and don't forget to give us your feedback, please.
I love the
Much
comments. Thank you,
appreciated.
everyone.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
Appreciate it. We really appreciate it. Thank you.
Have a nice day.
Yes, thank you.
Bye.